This is a piece of wood that can move. The old carpenter sat slumped on the ground. He is crazy about this strange piece of wood, then gives it to a carpenter. The carpenter brings the wood to his home. He has no wife and no children. He's going to carve a puppet to come with him. Suddenly the puppet starts to have a heartbeat. Then the wood calls Papa. The carpenter is scared and hurries back. He runs into the yard and shouts, "I have a son, I have a son." The carpenter sews clothes for the puppets with sheets and names the wood Pinocchio. He tries to teach Pinocchio to walk. Unexpectedly, Pinocchio runs straight away. Everything outside is full of curiosity for him. Naughty Pinocchio is tired from running. He's back home. He falls asleep without knowing anything. When he wakes up, he finds his feet have been burned. Distressed carpenter remakes a pair of legs for Pinocchio. For safety reasons, the carpenter decides to send Pinocchio to school. When the carpenter just leaves, Pinocchio sneaks out of school. He comes to the circus to watch the show. Then he is arrested by the owner of the circus. When school time is over, the carpenter comes to pick Pinocchio home, but finds that Pinocchio is missing. He learns from neighbors that Pinocchio is taken away by the circus. Panicked carpenter comes to the circus, but the circus has already moved away. The carpenter decided to find Pinocchio. The circus's owner, who takes away Pinocchio, dislikes the lamb roast is not cooked. He's ready to burn a puppet as firewood. Pinocchio blocks it in time. He is willing to sacrifice himself to replace the puppet. The boss is moved by Pinocchio's kindness. He gives him 5 gold coins. Let Pinocchio go back to find his father. Doesn't go far. Pinocchio meets 2 liars. They learn that he has gold coins. They have evil thoughts. They tell Pinocchio, "Just bury the gold coin in the soil. He can plant a money tree." The simple Pinocchio believes their words. They lead him to a deserted place with no people. The liars reveal their true faces. Not only snatch his gold coins, but also hung him from a tree. A cat-faced man rescues Pinocchio, then brings him into a castle. Pinocchio meets a fairy here. The fairy asks Pinocchio. Pinocchio is always lying. Every time he tells a lie, his nose will grow a bit longer. Finally, it becomes a 40-meter-long nose. Just when he is at a loss, the fairy calls a group of woodpeckers. The woodpecker slowly pecks his long nose. Pinocchio is restored. He and the little fairy become good friends. The two play on the back of the snail. A pleasant time passes very fast. The fairy lets Pinocchio go home to find his father. But when he gets home, there is no one at home. Pinocchio learns from the neighbor that his father goes to find himself on the other side of the sea. Pinocchio decides to find his father. He wants to pass the sea by swimming to the other side of the sea, but he is beaten back mercilessly by the waves. The fairy saves him again, but the little fairy at this time has grown into an adult. Pinocchio is puzzled. The fairy tells him, as long as his performance is good enough, he can become a real human. In the following days, Pinocchio starts going to school every day and shows his amazing talent. This day, the fairy tells Pinocchio, tomorrow he can become a real human. Let him invite friends to be guests. He finds his classmate. The classmates ask Pinocchio to go out with them. When he sees a car full of children, Pinocchio still can't help it. He goes with them. He doesn't expect that the boss turns out to be a trafficker. He turns the children into donkeys, then sells them to the circus. Pinocchio is forced to perform in the ring of fire, but because of tension, he accidentally falls. He can no longer perform. Pinocchio is thrown into the sea by the circus, as if he is going to be drowned. A group of small fish appears and saves Pinocchio. He changes back to his original appearance. The boss of the circus sees this magical scene. He wants to get back Pinocchio, but he can't swim. He can only watch Pinocchio swim towards the sea. Pinocchio is drifting non-stop in the sea, but is swallowed by a big shark. In the shark's belly, he meets the poor clownfish. They become friends. Deep in the belly of the shark, he sees a bright light. Pinocchio walks forward cautiously. He doesn't expect it turns out to be his carpenter father. When the carpenter is looking for him, unfortunately he is swallowed by a shark. While the shark falls asleep, they escape from the shark's mouth. But the carpenter can't swim. Pinocchio lets his father hold him, but he is too small, not enough to support 2 people. Just when they are about to drown, the poor clownfish appears in time and saves them. The clownfish brings the 2 to the shore. After bidding farewell to the clownfish, they come to an old house. At this time, the father's body is very weak. Pinocchio loves his father so much. He comes to a farm to work. The farmer agrees to let him exchange labor for remuneration. Pinocchio works hard in the morning and studies hard at night. With Pinocchio's care, the carpenter gradually recovers his health. Pinocchio is just a puppet after all. Through long-term work, that lets his surface start to crack. But for his father, he is willing to give his life. Pinocchio is feeding the sheep in the sheepfold this day. The fairy appears in front of him again. She tells Pinocchio, because of his kindness, she can make him a real human. Pinocchio hugs the fairy tightly. The falls asleep in her arms. When Pinocchio wakes up again, he finds himself has become a human. He runs home excitedly. The father sees Pinocchio turns into a human. He extremely excites. The father and son hug each other tightly. The movie ends here. In the shadow of every child, they maybe have a Pinocchio by themselves. If you lie, your nose will get longer. But when we grow up, we just find out, compared to our current selves, how innocent we were when we were a child. Thank you for watching. Follow my page to watch more film review.